And welcome to the Howard Eskin Show. I love to talk to people that are fun to talk to, know what the hell they're talking about, because there's a lot of people in the business that don't know what they're talking about. But this guest, and that would be Chris Simms, knows what he's talking about. The draft is coming up, so we'll deal with that. But first, let me thank our partners and our sponsors, and that would be Piazza Property Pros. That would be Cut the Cord with Jason streaming service. A lot cheaper that he can install, a lot cheaper than your cable service. And the car I drive is an Audi from Audi of Westchester. Now, on the show today, obviously, we're going to talk to Chris Simms, which will be a lot of fun. And then there's a lot of things that I want to deal with beyond the draft with Chris Simms. I got some surprises for him, so I'll give him a heads up. I got some surprises for him. And the other thing, there was a funny bit years ago with Peyton Manning. We're going to do that. And a first this week, a first for a player that is, when you think about it, it's truly amazing. But our partners, our sponsors, I want to talk about right now before we get to Chris. And I want to talk about the car you may want to drive, and you should kind of want to drive something really nice. And you can experience luxury at Audi Westchester. Their all new facility. It's got state of the art equipment. Really, really, really nice people. Audi Westchester is to make buying or leasing your new Audi very simple. It's pressure free, fun to deal with. It's a great environment. Since Audi Westchester is a part of the Mainline Automotive Group, you'll have access to the largest selection of new and pre-owned Audi vehicles in the tri-state area. Stop by Audi Westchester. They're located 1421 Wilmington Pike, or check them out at AudiWestchester.com. That's AudiWestchester.com. Also, you're getting ready for the summer. A lot of people are. You want a pool. You're going to have your property landscaped. Well, the transformation process is easy with Piazza Property Pros. They have experts. They'll come directly to you, whether you want a new in-ground pool or a pool renovation. Piazza Property Pros has you covered. 25 years of experience. And I know them firsthand because they did some work for me on my pool, and they do my landscaping. They'll specialize in turning your vision into a reality with top-notch craftsmanship, unmatched customer service, and all the work is done by their own skilled team. Whatever it is, the landscaping, the pool, whatever it is, it's their people. Pool maintenance, you can do that. You can trust Piazza Property Pros to deliver exceptional results on time within your budget. That's also important. Here's a number: 610-566-2608. At 610-566-2608. You can schedule a consultation or check them out on their website, piazzaoutdoor.com, to learn more. Piazza Property Pros, make your backyard fun and make it an oasis. And we all get tired of paying too much for cable. I mean, it's ridiculous anymore. It's ridiculous. Well, you can change all that with Cut the Cord with Jason. He offers an incredible service. It'll save you money. He'll come out to your house, cut your cable off. Immediately, you're going to save money, set you up with less expensive internet service and with streaming services, which include local and national channels. So you'll still get to see all the Philadelphia Pro games. And let's say you have a second home. No extra charge. Nope. Jason can, whether it's you, your family, whatever, he can set up that, and it's one monthly fee, one monthly TV bill for both houses. For more information and to save yourself a lot of money, call Jason at 215-801-5858. That's 215-801-5858. All right, let's welcome our guest, Chris Simms, who I'm sure there's people that remember him as a football player at Texas, there at University of Texas, and a football player at a couple of teams in the NFL. And I don't think he has to, with what Chris is doing now, kind of be in his father's shadow. And I was at that Super Bowl game, and I'm going to get to that. where Phil. But anyway, I'm going to get to that. I'll explain the story. Chris, welcome to the Howard Eskin Show. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me, Howard. Always enjoyed talking to you. We go way back. I've always respected you. Glad to be a part of it, man. And I like the set. I like the background. I mean, I like the coat. You got it all looking. You're looking good. You got a lot of style. You really do. I'll give you that.
Well, let me explain this to you because some people may not be well versed. You see Elvis in the studio here. Pete Rose years ago, actually, it was right after you were born. And the year was 1982. Nicknamed me the King. And he just started calling me the King and the King, and then everybody started calling me the King. So Elvis is the King. People call me the King, and Elvis never leaves the building. So Elvis is here.
I didn't know about that. Okay, King. All right. I didn't know you had such high, awesome nicknames like that. You might have to get LeBron James behind you too. He's the King as well.
I'm glad you brought that up. Anybody that gives themselves their own nickname is a fraud. King James gave himself his own nickname. You can't give yourself. You can't give yourself your own nickname.
You're right about that. You're right. That crosses the line. I'm with you. It should come organically from the people. That's where it really should come.
Well, I know people don't miss Chris on Football Night in America, which is Sunday Night Football. We used to call it Sunday Night Football. Now it's called Football Night in America. He works with another friend of mine, Mike Florio, who Mike, and he can tell you the story. We didn't get off to a good start at the beginning of his writing a blog because he wrote something that, it wasn't correct.
I'm not shocked. He's kind of famous for that. So I hear you. I understand.
Okay. And he's a great guy. I've learned that both of you guys are great guys. But all right. So you work for NBC Sports. You went into television. Joe Theismann, as an athlete, went into movies and television. So movies is your next step. How difficult? Let's get to the background of the TV career.
Yeah.
How difficult was it for you, or because you're doing what you know, did it make it much easier?
I think it did. I grew up around it, right? I had a rare childhood where I was the son of Phil Simms. I was at that Super Bowl when he won the MVP in 1987 out there in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl, 86 season, 87 Super Bowl. So Limelight, I was on Regis and Kathy Lee as a young kid. So I've never been intimidated by the camera, the microphone, or any of that, let alone I come from a household where, my mom's from Jersey. She's got a big mouth and personality. And my dad, as you know, has got a little personality and more personality than I think people realize.
Yeah.
Sport, I love the sport. I'm passionate about it. I work hard about it. That does allow you to unleash your true self, right? When you have knowledge and you feel like, hey, I've worked and I'm confident, you can be yourself on TV. People who are not themselves on TV, that's because they're kind of trying to BS their way around a segment or whatever else, and then they can't let their personality show. I always had people when I was playing in the NFL, right, quarterback of the Bucks, whether I was at Texas, wherever, media members would always go, man, you're such a great interview. You say so many great things. Do you ever think about, maybe being on TV when it's all said and done? And at that time, my dad was on TV, right, whether it was the lead analyst for CBS or NBC early on in his career. So I feel like I learned a little bit through osmosis of watching my dad, not only being around it growing up and all that, but then it really went to another level when he started to announce games and I started to go really get into this side of the business a little bit, the nuance. Went into coaching after I played, was up in New England for a little bit, realized that wasn't for me or my family. And that's where I then moved on to Fox Sports a little, CBS Sports, but ultimately Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report is where I made a name for myself. We had the #1 podcast there, the Simms and Lefkoe podcast. And that's where NBC then became attracted to me and brought me over here. But I guess I've always felt somewhat of a natural talking about football, and I'm passionate about it. So it's worked. And I got a big mouth, and I'm not afraid to share my true feelings that might be unpopular at times. So, that works for some people. It doesn't for others.
The Super Bowl, and I'll get to that now. You mentioned your dad's Super Bowl. I've been to 42 Super Bowls. And obviously that was one of them. But the funny thing about your dad, whenever you bring it up, he was 22 for 26. I remember that number.
22 or 25.
22 for 25. Okay.
Get it right, Howard. Come on.
Okay. All right. But the best part about that, he says the guys dropped the passes that were incomplete. They were drops.
That's his line. That is his line. He'll go 22 or 25. Well, because people have joked to him before and been like, well, what happened on the other three? What the hell? And he'd be like, he'll go, I should have been 24 or 25. That's what he'll tell you. He'll tell you that there was a pass interference on one, or I think in like the second quarter, he had Phil McConkey going down the middle, and the guy grabbed him. That was an incompletion. And then he did have one drop. And I think, so that's one of his go-to lines when he talks about that special day back there in 1987.
You know what? There's 2 Super Bowls that I remember in Pasadena, and I'm not sure if it was this one. Michael Jackson was halftime at one of them. Was that the one
that was Cowboys-Bills, right? That was Super Bowl 27, 52-17. Leon
right.
fumbling, going in.
Right.
So that was the first major halftime of Super Bowl history where they got an artist to come and be the spectacle in between both halves of the football game. My Super Bowl that I was at in Pasadena, where you were there too, it was Disney World, if you remember, or Disney.
Yep.
And it was just Mickey and Minnie and Goofy dancing on the stage. No words, nothing, right? So it's come a long way since that day.
All right, so let's first, before we get to the draft, because people go crazy. It's crazy how people are crazy about the draft.
But this is why, yeah.
I know. The rule changes. Now, there weren't one is still on the table, and we'll get to that, but they changed the kickoff rule again. Little things, but nothing really drastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to create. They want more run backs. They want less injuries, but they want more run backs.
Right.
So the ball comes out to the 35 if it's kicked in the end zone at all. That's a little bit, but the one that was tabled, and it's the one that's just created all kinds of craziness in Philadelphia, is the tush push.
Right.
There used to be a rule where you couldn't push a player who had the ball. You couldn't pull him or you couldn't push him. They changed that rule, so the Eagles beat the system. Do you have a problem in any way with the tush push?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely. I've been a staunch defender. Anybody that's watched any of my shows, my podcast, what I do with Florio, I have been all in favor of the tush push for a lot. First off, everybody's trying to replicate it. Everybody's trying. This is where I don't like it. The Eagles are special. You've heard me say, I'm sure before, the Eagles are an all-star team. That offensive line the Eagles have, I said this in the second half of the season this year, is the best one of the best offensive lines in the history of football. It's up there with the 90s Cowboys. It's a special group. So, it's hard to replicate that. Yes, one, because no teams have that offensive line. Two, they don't have a Jalen Hurts who's extremely strong, especially in the lower half, to get tough yards and do that and be a tough physical quarterback that way. So yeah, I think it's ridiculous that the NFL is trying to take it away. I'm out there with that. I don't get it. I mean, the first thing I said, and I said this to Coach Sirianni, when I saw him at the combine, I said, well, you think they're going to tell Mahomes he can't throw the ball sidearm anymore? Because that's just not fair. It's just he's better than everybody else. So they shouldn't let everybody do it. And that's just, again, it seems like a bunch of teams, a little bit of sour grapes, and we can't replicate this, and they're going to hide behind the safety of it a little bit, or it doesn't look like football, and it's more like, no, one team's great at it, and it's a part of what makes them great, and it looks like you're all scared and want to take it away.
I have mixed feelings. I mean, I really don't care one way or the other because they've got a good offensive line. They've got a good running back. They've got a quarterback that can do multiple things. Yeah, and I'm going to get into him too.
Yeah, I know you are.
They can do multiple things. So I don't really care. Landon Dickerson, and then people don't realize it, but talking to people with the Eagles is really important because he's so big. And a lot of times they go to his side of the center, and the center is bigger than Jason Kelce was,
right?
Cam Jurgens. So they have big guys on the offensive line, but I guess so do everybody else. But it's become
nobody else has got the offensive line like this. Not like that. That's just where they're special. This is why you're the Eagles. This is where Howie Roseman and Coach Sirianni and everybody have done a phenomenal job. You guys are special in that area. And that's the number one problem everybody worries about when they got to play the Eagles. It's not just the tush push, but it's like, oh no, how do we match up? How do we put extra guys in the box, yet cover A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith? You got something very rare there in your offensive line, Howard.
You know what? I got to touch on Jalen Hurts because we were on the air.
Let me say one more thing about this. Let me say one more thing about this thing. First off, they can't get rid of it. I don't like it. The second way, the reason I know you say I don't care either way. Well, I think we got to put our draw a line in the sand here a little bit and go, wait. One team does it great. Other teams try to replicate it. We can't do it. So now we're going to let the league assault the one team that's great. If you open the Pandora's box about this, what will be next in the future? That's the first thing I would say. The second thing is the proposal itself about the pushing and all of that. What does that fix? What does that fix? I've shown 20 quarterback sneaks on Pro Football Talk on this studio right here. And you can go through a bunch of tush pushes. And the push never happens from the back. The push isn't the thing that's endangering the D tackle. Oh, Saquon Barkley pushed Jalen Hurts in the butt. Oh, that was the force that hurt everybody on the defensive line? No. So what is that fixing? So that's what I mean. It's an assault on the overall play. They don't even know where to go with it. That's my issue with it. There has been no safety issues as of yet. But all of a sudden, the NFL is going to be proactive down the line about safety. They've never done that ever. Receivers got their heads knocked off over the middle for 45 years. Now they're worried about this. So that doesn't make sense to me at all. And the way they're proposing it does nothing. Okay, fine. Don't have Saquon Barkley and Goddard push them. It doesn't matter. Those big dudes you talk about and Jalen Hurts, they're going to move the pile anyways. So that's what I don't like about it either.
All right. So I want to touch, I don't have to touch it, but I will, because you early in your evaluation of Jalen Hurts, and not a criticism, and you understand, well, I can talk to people. People know who I am and what I am, and we ask the questions because it's good. You weren't a fan of Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think you mentioned one time, and I had you on the air on the radio, that it was similar to a high school quarterback. I forget what it was, but let's just say you weren't a fan. Now, Jalen Hurts has gotten better. I think there's still some things everybody has to improve. That's the way life is. We improve every day. Your thoughts now with Jalen Hurts?
I didn't love him coming out in the draft. I mean, I knew he was a little bit of a project. So I think that's where people start to look at me and go, oh, you want to hate on him from the start. And I want to be like, no, I just brought up real questions that everybody was talking about, and I was just bringing them to the forefront. There's a reason Alabama said, hey, we're awesome and you're pretty good, but we don't want you. Go somewhere else, right? There was things to be seen and to worked on in the throwing of Jalen Hurts. He's gotten remarkably better. I like this is where my job is hard, and I think you know this sometimes too. You want to talk about the player on the football field. I have no problem with the person. I don't. You know, if I met him, I'd be like, man, it's great to meet you. You probably heard a lot about me. I'm that asshole. Sorry, I hope I can swear. I just did.
Yeah, it's a podcast.
I'm that asshole that everybody thinks doesn't like you, okay? No, I just question his game. And where it really started is the first Super Bowl run when you guys lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. There was just too many people, and this is where I started to fight back. People were telling me he was the best quarterback in football.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I was like, okay, come on. We're getting ridiculous now. It's not the best quarterback in football. We've made great improvements. If you want to say top 10, sure. But don't sit here and tell me he's the top quarterback in football. So that's where I started to fight back a little bit more ferociously. But, I mean, last year, again, I do my quarterback rankings every year. You see them. I made him, the number 8 quarterback in football? Mm-hmm. Number 7? I mean, yes, I saw things even in the down year where everybody was down on him, before last year. And I saw improvements in the pocket and decision-making and throwing that I actually liked. So I know he's really damn good. I just think sometimes a little of the success of the Eagles gets thrown on his shoulders a little too easily. And he's still not perfect. And I don't put him in the class of like Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow yet. No, I certainly don't. And again, we see that. See, it's been a little bit like, hey, the Super Bowl, you're wrong, Simms, right? He's awesome. And I want to go, wait, but did you see the wild card round and the divisional round? That wasn't very good. I mean, the Eagles, they didn't choose to have a crappy passing game the last 7 weeks of the year. They weren't like, let's look like crap throwing the ball to make it harder so we can run the ball more. No, there was issues there. A.J. Brown said the passing game has to get better. I mean, the passing game is usually solely on the quarterback itself. So he was kind of calling him out without calling him out. So I just bring up those questions, but it's a very volatile subject. And I know Philly fans are very passionate about it. And they like to tell me that when they see me in person a lot.
Oh, I'm sure they do. All right. I got a question, which is going to hit home to Eagles fans too. Yeah. You were a coach for a brief time for what was it, about a year with the Patriots, right?
Yeah, about 18 months, right.
Okay. All right. Were they cheating at that time?
Were they? No, they weren't cheating at that time. Not that I know of, or at least anything going on in that way.
Well, we know that they cheated because they were found guilty of cheating.
I agree with you there. I mean, listen, he took the air out of the freaking football. That's not debatable. I'm on record as attacking that too, as you would know. I've been at the forefront of that, and that does matter. And yeah, I don't love that. And it bothered me personally just because I'm like, Tom Brady, you're awesome. You could throw a ball whatever way you want. Why are you trying to change the rules for yourself to have more advantages? So that's where I didn't love that. But no, my time in New England was, holy crap. Like, I know New England is Spygate and Deflategate. New England's on another level of doing things, scouting kids in college, free agency, the day-to-day approach. I had been in buildings in Tampa Bay, Tennessee, Denver. Nothing was like what I experienced in New England. It was a very special place.
Okay. All right. I'm going to tell you a story. Yeah. And I was standing right there when it happened. And they hadn't been caught yet. Malcolm Jenkins had a pick six. It was like 99 yards. The game was in New England.
Right. So, Chip Kelly, I remember. He was the coach.
Right. Okay. There, good memory. And it was a pick six. And the player normally, you pick six, you keep the football. One of their equipment guys came over to the Eagles sideline and said, hey, can we have that ball back? We'll give it to you back at the end of the game. Didn't think that. I mean, I said, wait a minute, guys always keep the ball. Like, what's going on here? But I didn't think anything of it. Then all this stuff came out at the end of the year, and I said, that's it. They wanted to inflate the football back to make sure that nobody knew at the time. It's just,
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Listen, Spygate, I can deal with more, because Spygate was really Bill Belichick, the lawyer, going through the NFL rules and going, this isn't really specifically written here very directly. So he took some liberties. The ball thing is totally on Tom Brady, 100%. And yes, I heard lots of stories like that too, Howard. There's no question about it. And I think teams and the league was semi-aware or had inklings even leading up to that year a little bit that maybe something like that was going on. I have had a lot of people tell me that type of stuff in the league office and all of that.
Right.
So, yeah, not a great look there, certainly. And they took some liberties. But at the same time, where I get mad at Tom Brady and I go, damn, the next week that ball was properly inflated in Super Bowl 49 and you beat the Seahawks and we're awesome. You didn't need to deflate the football. But yeah, they kind of took he took the rules into his own hands there.
All right. So now let's get to the draft. And the Eagles drafted 32. And I just, before I get to the players, the Eagles will make a trade in the first round or before. They're not going to draft 32. Just no way.
Everybody thinks. Yeah.
Yeah. It just, with Howie Roseman, because he's got a lot of draft picks to be able to trade. So what the formula that they use, what would it take for the Eagles based on those formulas? And I guess they kind of change a little bit each year for the Eagles to get from 32 to inside the top 15. What do you think it would take?
Gosh, that would, you're probably going to have to trade next year's first round pick or something like that to move up that aggressively, let alone probably another high round pick either this year or next year to go along with it. That's pretty aggressive. And I don't have a chart here with me either to kind of go through that.
Yeah.
But I would think it would be expensive to make that type of move. But at the same time, like, the Eagles are in a position of power where they can think of stuff like that.
Yep.
because you got so many good football players. How many can you pay? How many can you really, have on the roster at times? And so, hey, here's a team that's pretty much set up at every position on the roster. You don't look at one spot on their team and go, "Ooh, that's really lacking. They need to address that." No, you're kind of looking for cream of the crop or just that one guy that makes you unbelievably better, like Saquon did in free agency last year for the Philadelphia Eagles. So, I mean, listen, I could see them trading up and trying to go, hey, there's a guy here that we think we pair him with Jalen Carter or we get this guy as a pass rusher. Watch out.
Yep.
Would I be shocked if they did something like that? No. But I wouldn't be shocked too if they just stayed at 32 because sometimes the way things shake out, like we saw with Nolan Smith that year,
Yep.
you just sit there. The draft can be a funny thing. One or two teams make a bad pick, and all of a sudden you're sitting there at the end of the draft going, whoa, are they really about to get Quinyon Mitchell in the 20s? Are they really about to get Nolan Smith at 32? Right? When they did that last year with Quinyon Mitchell, I couldn't believe it. Or Cooper DeJean in the second round. So I don't know. I understand they're aggressive and all that, but I could see a way where they could sit still and still have a lot of good players on the board when they do pick.
You know what? They'd like to get into the top 10. I know that I've heard that from a couple of people.
Okay.
And so wouldn't everybody like to get, but just it's harder for them.
What's your feel for what they're looking for in the top 10?
I think a defensive lineman. I think because they built their team offensive and defensive line. So, and that's where it thins out too much if you're too deep in the first round. I mean, there's still going to be good players, and you got to get lucky. But I remember, when Andy Reid traded for Mahomes, he went from 27 to 11 because okay, and they gave up a lot. So it takes a lot to get up there. I think John Gruden helped him out with that a little bit with his advice. And John still has his quarterback camps and works with guys. And we're going to have John on in the future after the draft. I think he's doing some work with a team, but he doesn't want to do it during the draft. But it's a difficult thing. So now let's take a look at the players. All right, we'll go down the list. Quarterback, the number one quarterback is easy for you, right?
It's not even close. There's not a team in the NFL that doesn't have Cam Ward as the number one. And I don't know that for sure, but I do know that for sure, honestly, just by knowing a lot of people in the NFL and knowing what I've seen on film. There's only one special guy this year at the quarterback position, and that's Cam Ward. And he is special, like legit special. He would have been in the conversation last year with Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels as far as top quarterbacks in the draft. That's how good he is. I'm excited for him. I'd be shocked if he ended up anywhere but Tennessee Titans.
All right. So now there's so much hype about Deion Sanders' kid.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have to if Deion gets involved, there might be a little extraneous stuff there.
Exactly.
I'm not
That's
sure.
Not helping things. You're right. Teams are going to be scared of Deion having to answer questions, making a comment about my team, adding more pressure to the situation, all that. That's certainly going to scare a few teams away for sure.
All right. I've seen something on social media, which is not social and it's not media, but nonetheless, we quote things off of social media that he's dropping. Where do you place him in the ranks of the quarterbacks coming out of college?
Well, this is where, and I've said this from the start, and this is a problem. We have a lot of unqualified people making qualified statements early on in the draft process, right? And what's happening now is the important decision makers have starting to get a feel for the whole draft, and they're going, wait, this guy's not like number 3 pick of the draft type of talent here. This is not what we're seeing. I said this really from the get-go when I studied the quarterbacks. About a day later, 2 days later, the Raiders traded for Geno Smith. And Mike Flory asked me, he goes, why do you think they did it? I said, because Tom Brady's watched the draft and the quarterbacks, and he said, there's not a quarterback. Cam Ward won't be there. There's no quarterback worth taking at 6. Let's go trade for Geno Smith, right? The New York Giants sitting at number 3. Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, there's no way the Giants are drafting Shedeur Sanders at 3 to add to that drama. And every day, is it Russell? Is it Shedeur? And have the New York media going crazy over that. I've kind of said from the start, he could fall. I said that. And I said, once you get past the Saints at 9, tell me what happens. And I've been at the forefront of kind of saying I could see him on the board at 21. At 21 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here they are bringing him in a visit now because they're getting a clearer picture of the draft. And they're starting to go, I don't think anybody in the top 10 is taking Shedeur Sanders. I do think he's a first-round quarterback. I don't think he has one elite trait that you look at to go, oh, wow, that's unreal. He's really good at that. But I would also say he doesn't have a weakness either that I look at to go, ooh, there's a problem there. That bothers me. He does everything pretty good. He plays in the pocket, good decisions, very accurate thrower. I think his arm is stronger than it gets credit for. He's better than a Kenny Pickett. He's better than other quarterbacks that I could go through that have been drafted in the first round before. But when I talk about a top 5 quarterback, to me, those are guys that like can carry the team. Okay, you're hurt. He's hurt. What? Don't worry, guys. Get on my back. I'll make it happen. Right? Mahomes was that guy. Now, Mahomes, that's really my claim to fame, is that that year I said he should be the first pick of the draft. That was the whole thing. He was the best player in the draft. But the league was scared because he went to Texas Tech. And we hadn't seen an air raid quarterback be successful yet. So that scared like half the league. But like you said, Gruden, Andy Reid, all those guys, they were all over it. But yes, that's how I view a top 5, top 6 quarterback. And I don't think Shedeur Sanders is that. But I do think he's a first-round talent.
All right, so here with quarterbacks, and usually, and there's statistics on a lot of these things, running backs aren't good to take in the top 10 because if you're taking somebody in the top 10, you probably need more than a running back. But quarterbacks, the success rate of first-round drafted quarterbacks is not good, especially in the top 10. I mean, we know of 1, 2, or 3 players that weren't even that the year that McNabb was taken, it was Couch, I guess, was the first pick. Yeah, and then Culpepper was 7. He was just okay. Why is there such, I'll call it failure, for lack of a better word, for quarterbacks taken that high? Why does that happen?
Well, I think you're seeing it less and less. I will say that. I mean, look at last year, right? You can talk about Josh Allen, quarterbacks like that. Who else? Justin Herbert. He was drafted behind Tua. But like, I think a lot of the times when it comes to a Tua who should never have been drafted at number 5 in the NFL draft and other quarterbacks, teams sometimes draft the stats. They draft the college team they're playing. Oh, look at that. And I want to go, we could put a bunch of quarterbacks at Alabama when Tua was there, and they're going to look awesome. What do you think they would have looked like if Justin Herbert was at Alabama instead of Tua? I mean, they would have been like, oh, this is not fair. We can't play this year. They're going to win the national championship. So I think there's a little bit of not looking at the player and the skill set sometimes and drafting the production and it factors and stuff like that. It can go that way, or it can go the way of, oh, I like this on Achilles Smith. His arm is super explosive. Yeah, he's not a great decision maker. He's not always accurate, but his arm is super explosive. Well, those other things are kind of important. They're not easy to fix there. And then, of course, he didn't fix them, and that became some issues. So the first round sometimes can go 2 ways. Teams can play the safe bet. I'm just going to get a guy that's a high character guy, right? That's a good player, right? But I just know I can depend on him. And then you go, damn, we picked him at number 12, and it's 3 years later. And it's like, yeah, he plays, but he's not like the number 12 pick. Or it could go the other way of going, like I said a minute ago, hey, this guy he's amazing. Look at his speed, his measurables, all that. But yeah, he doesn't do anything on the field or whatever. Oh, we think that can happen. He's got some elite traits. All right, but he's not a good football player. It doesn't work out. So it can kind of work both ways there. And I think that's why you see that happen in the first round sometimes.
All right, so now we go to running backs. And the running back out of Boise State, obviously the best coming out of college. Now, because he's a running back, does he get selected in the top 10?
I think he will. Because of 2 things. The Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey effect on the NFL right now. The other thing is this is a draft that lacks high-end superstar talent, especially offensive playmakers that can do more than what the play's drawn up to do. And he's one of the few guys that can do it. And again, we got to stop this like, oh, it's a running back. He'll only going to last 4 or 5 years. When the hell did teams care about a player 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road? When the hell did that happen? Everything's a 4 or 5 year rental.
Right.
What are we doing here? Now we're worried about, the running back won't contribute in year 9 of his career. When the hell has any GM or coach ever thought that far down the road? You guys, the GM and the coach won't be there for that. So don't worry, right? So take him. It's a no-brainer. And yes, I do think he goes in top 10. And on top of that too, Howard, the kid from North Carolina, Omarion Hampton, he is a first-round pick. He's a special player. I think he ends up going in the top 22. I will not be shocked if that happens. I have him in the same tier as Genty. Genty's one, but this Omarion Hampton's a special NFL running back too.
Yeah, those kind of things really will be interesting. It's like, how does the Giants general manager still have a job where Hard Knocks just exposed that whole thing of being that was the death knell. That was the death knell. And I don't think Saquon wanted to go back to the Giants because he's kind of from the Philadelphia area, but nonetheless, it just, it come back to us. That's not the way it works. I mean, you make him an offer and then he's going to shop it. But regardless. All right. So let's move on to another position. And this is a position that is interesting for the Eagles. Defensive line, which includes the edge rushers, the Eagles, you lose Brandon Graham to retirement. You lost Josh Sweat, and they're going to get a compensatory pick, so they're okay with that. So, all right, there's 2 ways to go with this with the Eagles. If they move up, who do you think could be there and good enough for the Eagles? Or if they stay where they are there players at the defensive line position that could be good enough, in your opinion?
I do think there's a very good chance that there could be a pretty damn good pass rusher at 32 still there.
Oh, okay.
Right. There could be. But yeah, is it going to be the quality of maybe the top 2 guys that you could get in the top 10 or top 12? No. So that's what you got to weigh in that situation there. There is, I think, legitimately 6 or 7 edge guys that could go in the first round. I don't think that's crazy. So the ones I think about just off the top of my head, if they wanted to get around 12, 10, whatever, there's only 2 edge, because Abdul Carter's gone, right? That's not going to happen. He's going in the top 3 picks, hands down. So there's only 2 other edge guys I think that are worthy of trading up for, at least that aggressively, to what you're talking about. One's the kid Mike Green from Marshall. He's special. I mean, he's length, speed, bend, aggressive as hell, gets off blocks, make tackles. The other guy is Shamar Stewart, one of the freakiest guys in the draft from Texas A&M. He'd be the guy that's kind of built like Myles Garrett. He's 269. He ran 4.5. He's got the long arms everybody likes coming off the edge. He only had 1 sack, but I would tell you that his pressures and his ability to beat tackles is as impressive as anybody in the draft, except for Abdul Carter. He's a special football player. So those would be the 2 edge guys that I would go. I think if Philly was going to move up and think edge, those are the 2 guys I would predict that they would be, kind of earmarking there.
Okay, it's really hard to project deep in the first round, and especially where they drift. If they stay where they are, what player do you think might be good enough? And they love these Georgia and Alabama players.
I know they do.
Yeah, they really do. But what player do you think could be there when they pick, if they stay at 32?
James Pierce of Tennessee wears number 27. He ran, he's 247. He ran a 4.47. He's maybe not quite as bendy as some of the top guys, right? His pass rush not quite as effective, but still a good player. Ezeruke from Boston College. I'm going to mess up his name. I've been messing up his name from the get-go. Donovan Ezeruke. He's another one that I think could be there around that time. You talked about the Georgia guys. I think the Georgia guys, Mykel Williams, he's legit. His size, the NFL is going to like him. The other one is one of the guys I don't get in the draft, Jalen Walker. And I think it's a little bit of a hot love thing with him. Mm-hmm. But I could see him being there at the end of the first round. I don't think he's very good stand-up linebacker or that great of a pass rusher. And I think some of the draft pundits are overrating him a little bit. But that's another one that I think could be there at the end of that round right there as far as pass rusher. But again, I don't think any of those guys I mentioned there are in the class of Abdul Carter, Mike Green, or Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M.
All right. Defensive back could be, they took 2 last year and they were good for them. But, they lose, CJ Gardner Johnson. And, that's an area that they like to look at too. Project the top ones and the ones that might be there for the Eagles.
The corners are, there's a lot of different types to choose from. Now, what are they going to look for? I would think of maybe an outside type of corner. I think that the kid from Michigan is clearly the best corner in the draft. Will Johnson, right?
Uh-huh.
He's the guy. I think after that, though, and this could be a guy that ends up being there in the first round, is the kid from Kentucky, Maxwell Hairston. Maxwell Hairston, I love him. I got a man crush on him. I mean, he's got 3 rockets up his ass. He's as explosive as it gets in football. He can run with anybody. His only knock is he's 5'11", right? He's not your prototype first rounder where they want a 6 foot, 6'1" type of guy. But man, is he special that way. And that's what I would think they'd be looking at, is that type of guy on the outside. Will Johnson, Maxwell Hairston, and then there's the Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is a top 5 receiver in the NFL draft. As a DB, he'd be late in the first round. And he's not really an outside corner. He's kind of just a good secondary player. You can't trust him on an island against elite NFL receivers. But I think the Maxwell Hairston kid certainly could be there. There's a chance. And if he was there, man, that would be a unreal secondary there in Philadelphia.
You know what? The defense is one of the things that really helped them win, because the Eagles in the Super Bowl, they didn't score early, and their defense really, I mean, if there was an MVP in that game, it was either Zach Bond, somebody on the defense. I'm not taking anything away from Jalen Hurts, because the quarterback always gets it. But my gosh, that kept him into the game until things got righted offensively for the Eagles. So that's an area that they really look at, and for good reason. That's still, it's crazy. We look at offense, but defense still wins ball games in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you could have easily gave the MVP to Josh Sweat. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, the year before that against the 49ers, their defense was special in that game. You got to have a defense. You can't always think your quarterback and offense are going to be able to go out and score 38 points and just move the ball easily as they want against the top teams in football. And that's what makes the Eagles so special. They can do it so many different ways. There's really not a weakness on the team.
All right, before we get to what I want your opinion on what you think the Eagles' needs are, I want to show you something, and I want to ask you, I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to ask you if you recognize the guy. It'll be, I don't know, it's your right to your left when you're looking at the screen. Let's put up that picture and tell me if you recognize that guy in the Giants jersey.
Wow, look at that right there. Jeez. Who's the other guy is the question.
Right. Well, this was, and you were a little kid, and I don't think it was in Atlantic City. And there was a promotion at one of the casinos, and we played a football game. It was on the roof. There was an area there on the roof. That guy, that number 11, was the quarterback of one team. That's before he was the MVP of the Super Bowl. And the guy on the other side was the quarterback of the other team. A little heavier, but the quarterback of the other team. But how about that? That's young amazing. Phil Simms.
I was there. I believe I was there for that event. I feel like I remember it. Maybe I'm thinking of another event Big Phil went to in Atlantic City, but that's incredible right there. You two together.
Right. I want to show you that picture. It's just, my gosh, it's just, I don't even know how old your dad was at that time, but that is Phil Simms. But yeah, it brought back memories for me when I found the picture. And when I was having you on, I said, I got to show you the picture.
Right.
It was a fun day too. And I forget where I got to know your dad. That was probably the first time. And then there was a bunch of golf tournaments, which I got to know him because he played, and I guess Mike Schmidt had some tournaments, and I'm friends with Mike. And then we got to know each other. And luckily I got to know him, even though he was a New York Giant. their offensive coordinator I'm friends with, Mike Kafka. So
Sure.
I just, you got to keep your distance sometimes. But then luckily, and I was fortunate that I got to know you at one of the owners meetings. And it was really kind of, it's good that I love the sports, but I love meeting people because you get to know people as people. And it doesn't happen that way all the time with the media because all they care about is what happened on that play. Why did you lose? Why did this? I see Mike Trout at Eagles games. I never ask him a baseball question. Never.
Right.
Because he and his dad used to watch me and listen to me when they were growing up living in the area. All right. So now let's get to the Eagles' needs. In your opinion, what do you think? And they're obviously a good team, but it's hard to go back to Super Bowls. What do you think that they need?
I don't think there's anything glaring. I think you kind of hit on it a little bit. Maybe D lineman for planning for the future, right? Maybe draft a D tackle because we're not going to be able to pay Jordan Davis in the future, or another edge guy to just stay young and stay ahead of the curve there. But I look at maybe another corner, maybe another what I'd call a hybrid safety corner type of player, nickel. I could certainly see that being a part of the conversation there. Maybe a receiver is another place where I'd look at to just bolster the room altogether. Right? It does seem just two guys very centric on just A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And when one guy's hurt, it does change the team a little bit. But, I mean, you're sitting there just – you can be picky. That's what's amazing. There's nothing desperate to look at. I think those are the ones that jump out to me. I don't think, even offensive line, there's nothing there you look at. Maybe, again, some planning for the future, but I don't expect picks like that in the first 2 rounds as far as the Eagles to plan for the future like that.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert is an interesting player. He's on the last year of a contract. He has had some injuries. There is talk, and it's real that people shop everybody. But whether he's here, I don't know that he'll be here if he's here next year after that. So is there a tight end there that they might be able to?
This is what we didn't get to, right? When you talked about the trade up, my mind did go there. Would they be thinking tight end? Would they be thinking Tyler Warren or even Colston Loveland from Michigan, who's, I think, worthy of a top 20 pick? I do. He's a hell of a football player. So is that the area they look at, right? Yeah, get him in there. Then you can move on for Dallas Goedert, and you have to go. Tyler Warren, I would expect goes in the top 12 picks. I expect. He's special. I like him better than I did Brock Bowers coming out last year. He might not be as good a route runner, but with the ball in his hands, he's a special football player. I mean, he's a weapon, and not a lot of tight ends come along like that very often.
It'll be, the draft is such a fascinating thing. And everybody's got, I'm telling you, when we get closer, there's going to be all these things on social media. And it's like what's real, what's not real. It's unbelievable. But I do respect, and I know you put a lot of work into it. And I'm not saying this because you're on with me. I've always respected your work ethic and the fact that you dig into it. Are we right all the time? No, we're not going to be right all the time. We're going to make mistakes on players. We all, you think, well, this player is going to be really good. And you say, boy, he was a stiff. I mean, it's like, I think of Matt Leinart, who those USC quarterbacks, just for whatever reason, other than Carson Palmer, never really made it.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Oh, I threw the ball 2 feet to Reggie Bush. He ran 80 yards for a touchdown. Right. Let's draft Matt Leinart in the first round. That's the dumb shit I'm talking about that the NFL does. Yep. Dan Patrick will tell you, because I used to be a weekly guest because I was the starting quarterback of the Bucs.
Right.
He asked me in that right around the draft time that year. He goes, so you take Matt Leinart, right? If you were, I think it was like the Denver Broncos or somebody at the top of the draft. And I'm like, what? I wouldn't take Matt Leinart. No way. I was like, Jay Cutler's the guy. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, but that's where it's wrong. Tim Tebow, I throw it 3 feet. Percy Harvin runs 80 yards. Let's draft Tim Tebow in the first round. What? Like, that's the dumb crap the NFL does and why you get those busts in the first round.
You know what? He was just never a really good pro quarterback, but he ran a lot. He threw short passes when he was in Florida. And Josh McDaniels, I'm not a fan of his either, but you kind of got to work with some of these guys, so I'll leave you alone on that. But he made it like this was going to be the guy, and he was never the guy. He was lucky to win that one playoff game he won when he was with Denver. I mean, it was tight most.
Yeah, that's what people. He won a playoff game. Yeah, the point was they were good enough to win the Super Bowl that year,
Right.
and they had to eke out a playoff win. He's look, it's the fourth quarter. He's 3 for 18, and then he throws one pass, and everybody goes, "Look, he's awesome!" It was all like it was crazy. It was crazy. And Josh McDaniels would tell you that he made a mistake, and he drafted on intangibles for the only time of his life, and he screwed that up.
All right, so now I can't let the referees go, and not for any special reason. I think they're going to, and they've already started to implement more replays. Is the game too fast for the officials, and is that part of the problem?
Yes, and they need to be full time. It's not a whatever BS the NFL wants to throw at you there. I mean, any work, any job, when you do it full time and you get more experience, you get better at it. You get more used to it, right? You jump out of a plane for a living and go skydiving. After like the 30th one, you're like, I'm an expert. This ain't that exciting anymore. I'm jumping out, right? Whatever. In the NFL, I totally believe that. One, full-time officials, yes, would help because now in the offseason, be it OTAs, be it training camp, you're seeing the game, you're seeing the speed of it. So you're never like caught off guard. I think too many of these guys, it's like, I didn't do anything. I was a lawyer. Holy crap, there's Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, but you missed 7 penalties because you're over here enamored with Mahomes. Like, what are you talking about? So that to me is a big thing. Full-time, and I really wish they could find a way to get ex-players involved in refereeing. I really do, because I think they would be the most suited for it. They're not going to be intimidated. They're not going to be worried about some fan or the players yelling at them for a bad call, right? They're going to know and be used to the speed of the game. Those are two things that at least popped to my brain on that subject a lot.
I failed to ask you because Nick Sirianni got killed here after 4 games last year. I think he's a good coach. A little different. He's got the players' respect. They like him. Right. He's creative. He's done things that are different, but he gets results. Your thoughts on Nick Sirianni?
One of my favorites. Another guy that I've really defended. And the Eagles are chippy and play tough and don't back down from anything because that's what their coach is. Usually good football teams take on the image of their coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
The New England Patriots, we're going to be on every detail. We're on to Cincinnati. We know the Pythagorean theorem. We're smart football players. Oh, that's right. Bill Belichick was that. New York Giants of Bill Parcells. Get in there and Buster, be more physical. What were the Giants? Oh, big physical. Boom, boom, right? I mean, that's usually what happens with good football teams. Nick Sirianni's attitude for Philadelphia, for the amount of personalities and big-time players he has on that team, I think is perfect. I really do. I'm a big fan of Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, I've defended him because, in the sports talk radio, I said, you guys got to understand. It's just, they never talk to a guy. They never understand him. They don't understand in the media. Obviously you're there on a lot of times. I'm sure you go to a lot of places. But you got to find out about the person. And then you talk to the players and say, we really had fun. He plays stuff in meetings that gets their attention because half the guys can fall asleep.
You got to relate. Right.
Yeah, I know. He's really done a good job.
It's come a long way from planting a flower and watching it bloom. That's for sure.
Yeah, but he just tried to explain stuff, whatever it was. Hey, listen, it's Chris, I really have fun talking to guys like you. And when you talked about getting in the business, when I went into television, I never worked television. Channel 3, the station here, called me in 1982. And I said, I'm not ready for TV. And there was a guy that was on the air here that died in a parachuting accident, who I also worked with at the radio station. He pushed me. He says, you're ready. So they worked with me for a while. They sent me to a coach. And this is my point. It was a coach in New York. She's worked with a lot of network people, CBS people. So I went to her. She scared the living daylights out of you. But 2 words I'll never forget. And I've told you, Douglas, when he wanted to get in the business. I've talked to Jason Kelsey, talked to players that are interested, that really want to work at it. 2 key words: real and natural. And you actually mentioned that. And you're natural when you talk to people. You can't be somebody that you're not. And that's what you do very, very well. And you're talking about what you know, but some people maybe know it, but they try to be somebody else, and they're not real and they're not natural. And most of the people out there can pick that up. And that's where I do
appreciate that.
respect you. And you
Thanks,
really
man.
do a great job. Run down all the things other than football night in America, Sunday Night Football for NBC Sports. What are the other things that you do that people can look for you?
Every morning, 7 to 9 a.m. on Pro Football Talk with Mike Florio on Peacock, streaming live at 7 a.m., like I said. And then Chris Simms Unbuttoned, my podcast, Mondays and Wednesdays. That is on Peacock or wherever you get your download your podcast from. Available everywhere, but those are my main things. I do some college football on Saturdays for NBC and the Big Ten during the college football year too. We have like a 30-minute pregame show, but as you know, my life is pretty much revolved around the NFL, and that's where I'm all in on it.
Yeah, and it's fun, and we all do things. And the podcast world is radio is on a bad direction. The podcast world is where it's at, but I appreciate it. And real and natural, I've always tried to do that. And doing talk radio before I went into television, it was easy. You found it to be really easy. Say hello to my pal Mike Florio for me.
I will, for sure.
Chris, it was so much fun, and I love it, and I'm sure I'll talk to you again. And thank you so much. Thanks.
Whenever you want me, Howard, you got me. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, man. Talk to you soon, buddy.
And say hello to your dad for me, will you?
I will. I definitely will.
All right, take care. Chris Simms, terrific guy. It really is. It's really a pleasure to talk to people that actually know what they're talking about, and it's not bullshit most of the time. And that's unfortunately what part of this business has been. But he did give a pretty good breakdown of the draft, and I'm sure we'll go over that, and some of those things will be posted on my social media platforms, and we'll do that. And Joe, since I didn't hear you in my ear. See, I have a producer who can talk to me in my ear. How much time do we have left? Okay, that's it, huh? Okay. All right. Well, let me tell you about some really, really important people. And let's start with Cut the Cord with Jason. It's an incredible service that will save you money. He'll come out of your house, cut your cable off, set you up. It'll be less expensive. You see that number right there? Just look at it. Or listen to it if you're listening on with audio. 215-801-5858. 215-801-5858. Less money, 2 houses for the price of 1, save you hundreds of dollars. You got the number, and you got Jason. Now, you want to get a pool. You want to get your house landscaped. Piazza Property Pros. 25 years of experience. They specialize in turning whatever you want, whether you want a pool, whether you want maintenance, whether you want landscaping. It's their people. 25 years experience with their people. That's what's really important. Piazza Property Pros. Here's a number: 610-566-2608, 610-566-2608, or piazzaoutdoor.com. Hey, listen, you want to get ready for the summer? They're it. And you want to drive a really nice car doing all this stuff. Audi of Westchester. Audi Westchester. Check out their new facility, state of the art. I stop over there periodically during the week. I just have fun there. Have fun talking to the people. They're a lot of fun people. Great selection of vehicles, because being part of the Mainline Automotive Group, you have access to the largest selection of new and pre-owned Audi vehicles in the tri-state area. Stop by Audi Westchester. They're located 1421 Wilmington Pike, or check them out at AudiWestchester.com. That's AudiWestchester.com. All those partners, sponsors, whatever you want to call them, are really good people, because I know them personally, and I can tell you they are. And we have a little time left. I want to play something that's happened this week, and it's a first. Let's go with the video. Ken Griffey Jr.
Made the club and is going to play in center field for them. Whips that one to left field. First swing is deep. Kittle back. Goodbye, home run. His first swing at the Kingdome.
Can you believe that? His first swing is 19 years old. He had 2 seasons over 50 home runs, 5 over 40, 630 home runs. And his first swing in the major leagues at 19, he gets a home run. Hey, thanks for joining the Howard Eskin Show. Thanks to Chris Simms, and sign up on YouTube and turn on, what is it, the red light? There's a red light or the red bell or whatever the heck it is on yeah, the bell on YouTube, and it'll notify you when the podcast is coming out. Thanks to everybody. Have a great day, a great rest of your week whenever you're watching this, whether it's live, whether it's on our social media platforms, X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. You got it, and have a good one. And thanks again.